Hello, my name is Bart de Vrij and I work with ELAAD. Today I'm going to do a presentation together with the Dutch Consumer Organization of Electric Vehicle Drivers on charging needs, wants and demands. What are the charging experience and opinions of EV drivers? Next slide, please. This is important because what you see here is an electric vehicle charging. We have lots and lots of electric vehicles in the Netherlands, but we try to do something a little bit different. On the background, you see a household, and on the roof, solar panels. What we try to do is integrate the electric vehicles into our energy system. So the car also becomes a buffer for the energy grid. But for this, you need to have smart charging. Smart charging is technically feasible, but how our consumers perceive it? Next slide, please. I'm going to do this presentation with two of my colleagues. Mrs. Ellen Heap presents the Electric Vehicle Drivers Association, and Mrs. Lora Hardin is a colleague of ELAAD. Next slide, please. And ELAAD is researching and testing smart and sustainable charging. We're a collaboration of Dutch grid operators, publicly owned, and we try to reduce the impact of electric vehicles on the grid, but also see what chances are there. How can we integrate it into our energy system? Next slide, please. I think the word is for Ellen.
Thank you, Mr. De Vrij. Thank you so much. My name is Ellen Heap and I'm board member of the Dutch Electric Vehicle Drivers Association. We are here since 2014 and we have about 7,000 members and we're still growing immensely. And what do? There's three things. We give a lot of information to people that drive an electric car or that want an electric car. And we've got a nationwide EV help desk that people can ask questions to 24/7. We are also building a community where peers are informing each other about how electric driving is conceived by everyone. And we do an important policy work as well to see that national and local policymakers know about our interests and that the media and the politicians are also in favor of what we think should be done in the Netherlands. And since last week, June the 9th, we are also one of the initiators of the GIVA, the Global EV Drivers Alliance, and we are a proud member of that one. This alliance combines 37 electric vehicle drivers associations from all over the world, from America, Latin America, the Pacific, Africa, Europe, Australia. And our goal is to really unite wishes and see if we have lessons learned that we can use in other countries to further electrify our globe. We find it important what electric drivers think of new innovative techniques. As Mr. De Vrij already mentioned to you, it's important to know that the grid can handle new ways of charging. And we think the role of the consumer is important for that because he or she is the owner of the car and he or she should collaborate with all the things that we would like to have. We did a research last year, 2020. There were about 1,800 people that responded to that survey. Here you can see the results. As you can see in the Netherlands, about 91% of the people that buy an electric car are men. And they're mostly a bit older. They're mostly between 50 and 70 years old. But that is traditionally in the Netherlands that people that buy cars are more normally a bit older than the normal population. Most of the people buy the car new. There's only 14% that buys it secondhand. And you can also see who buys that car. If you look at the private people that just buy it for their own private purposes, it's about half of them buys secondhand cars and half of them buys new cars. But if you're working as a business owner or a business employer or a business employee, you can see that most of the people drive in a new car. What we did, we wanted to know what the Dutch charging mix was of all those different target groups, because it's important to know what they are. And as you can see here, about 40% charges at home. They've got their own charging station at home. And a small part is also charging with a normal charging point. Some people, 20% is charging at home, at work. So those are the people that use the car as a business for their businesses. And what we see is that about 11% of all target groups use the fast charging possibilities next to the highways. And we've got an important part of our charging is also provided by public charging stations in the on-street parking, which is about 23%. And it's important to note that only 30% of the car owners in the Netherlands have a possibility to install a charger at their own parking. Most of them live in big apartment blocks and they don't have that possibility. The 4 bottlenecks in the charging in the Netherlands is that we don't have enough charging points. There's lots of people saying that almost 40% of all the neighborhoods, there is no guarantee for public charging, which is a problem. Another problem is that the charge point is there, but it's taken by an ICE car, just parking there, or an EV that is not charging. So that's a disturbance for EV drivers. EV drivers find it more and more disturbing that charging speed is not indicated, and they find it important because they need to know how much kilometers they can travel before going to their next target. And one of the big problems is no price transparency. People have no clue what the costs of charging are. You can see that in this little state under the next to the picture, that you see most of the people agree, most of the people don't agree with the statement, I know what the costs of charging are. So this is like major challenges for the Dutch situation.
You're muted, Lot.
Thank you, Baarte. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ellen. My name is Lora Hardin. I work for ElaadNL as a behavioral researcher in the field of electric transportation, and in particular the field of smart charging. And I will tell you a bit more about my research as well. As consumers, we're used to having energy available basically all the time. For example, we plug in our mobile phones and energy is right there immediately and always at full power. Smart charging, however, means that we will charge our electric cars at optimal times. So this can be at times where there's a lot of sustainable energy available, such as in the middle of the night when there's a lot of wind energy. It can be at times when energy is cheap, but also at times when there is little other demand for electricity. So for example, by households and industry, etc. So this asks from all of us that we use energy in a different way. So the questions I am trying to answer is, how are we going to make sure that EV drivers are willing to be part of this energy transition? And also, how are we going to make sure that they will adopt smart charging? So in this context, I am researching the consumers' wants and needs within this development. So Ellen already referred to the national charging research, and where we question people on their charging behavior in general. But we also questioned them more specifically on their attitude and experience towards smart charging. And I would like to share 4 key findings. It's already on the slides actually, so you can already see it, that tells us what is important when we want to reach a high adoption rate. So first of all, if the term smart charging is explained in all its facets, because there are of course a lot of different elements to smart charging, a lot of definitions, if you explain it well, users hold a positive attitude towards this. We actually see this in all the studies we do. So people are able to see the bigger picture, they see the opportunities that it brings, but they also see the urgency of it. So it also seems that the more knowledge users have about smart charging, the more important they consider it, and also the higher their willingness is to participate. So therefore, informing users is important and it contributes to the adoption. So EV drivers are in general positive, but under certain conditions. And those you can also see on the slide. First of all, transparency. It is not higher mathematics, of course. If you take the train, you also want to know how expensive your ticket is, how long the train takes, how often you have to change trains, etc. You want insight in the things that affect you and your trip. And in this way, EV drivers also want information when they are charging at a particular charging station. So how expensive is charging? Ellen also mentioned it, but also what is the speed of this charging station? And is there a smart charging algorithm activated? And what does that mean for me and my session? So when users plug in now, they often have no idea. So good steps have already been taken in the Netherlands when it comes to price transparency. And the next step should be that this is already done when it comes to smart charging. Second, having a degree of control over the smart charging session is desirable. We actually did a real-life smart charging pilot in people's homes, and for the participants, being in control was said to be either important or sometimes even a condition for participation. So it's just something we like as human beings. It gives us a sense of security. It gives us a sense of safety. And you can, for example, think of a Charge Me Now button so that users can immediately charge if it's necessary with more or maximum power. So an interesting nuance to this finding is that even though the degree of control is important, it turns out that in practice this button is hardly used. If at all. So you might think maybe the button is not necessary, but the opposite is actually true, but because it's precisely its presence and also the possibility that contributes to the adoption rate. And then finally, the fourth point, smart charging should be easy. Convenience generally plays a very important role in consumer choices. So the more barriers there are, the greater the chance that a consumer might drop out. So also in smart charging, no complicated actions, no extra steps. You don't want to download 20 different applications when you want to charge smart. And as well, you don't want to be forced to make a decision every time you have to charge either. So smart charging should be just as easy, maybe even easier than not smart charging. So last comment I would like to make is that the group of EV drivers is constantly growing and also changing. So it remains very important to also investigate the near future and far future user. So therefore, we will keep conducting the national charging research for at least 2 more years. And the second edition will be presented next month, 15th of July this year. Back to you, Baarten. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Heap and Mrs. Hardin. So smart charging is important. It's important to keep the balance on the electricity grids when charging electric vehicles or when there's a lot of influx of solar energy. Technically, this is realistic. We do it all day, but consumers are also willing to apply smart charging. That's the good news. They want to be in control, and for control, they want to have insight in the availability of their energy and of their transport. So transparency is also very, very important. Topics for consumers. So not only developing smart charging on a technical way, but also on a user-friendly way. We can combine this. We can use the momentum of the rollout of e-mobility, combine it with the global targets on climate matters, and then we can make a success of this. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. In the slides, our contact addresses are. We would like to thank you for this opportunity. Have a good day.